is called the Remembering Box. Once, long ago, there was a village, now almost quite forgotten to history. It was a simple, out-of-the-way kind of place that rarely saw trouble. However, for one group of friends, something was wrong, and they gathered in the tavern to discuss a matter most troubling. At their head was the stonemason, who had called them all together, along with the carpenter. Joining them were also two brothers, a weaver and a field worker. Then lastly there was the fool, the youngest, with no real calling. What troubled them was a man, a traveller who had been passing through their village for many years. He was friendly enough and generous when it came to a drink, but always asked questions. Though a little strange, the people of the village were happy to oblige, for he had never caused anyone harm. The devil, however, greets with a welcome smile, and the friend had come to realise that this traveller was no different. The carpenter was the last to have sighted him. An encounter that had left him shaken. But before he gave his account, the stonemason asks them to share their stories, so all had an understanding of what evil they were facing. First, the weaver, who, having an eye for such things, noticed the traveller always wore the same clothes, which, in all these years, had never become worn. Furthermore, though similar to their own, they were woven from a material the likes of which he had never seen. Here, the fool was eager to add how the traveller was always clean, his teeth the whitest of any man, with breath fresh and pleasant. In his opinion, no one had the right to be so spotless. The field worker then explained that when visiting the next village, no one there had ever heard of the traveller. On its own it might have been nothing, but he soon came to find that it was the same everywhere. No one outside their own village knew of him, and so one day he followed, but lost sight of the man as he rounded a bend. Once caught up, the road ahead was empty, the traveller having vanished without a trace. After, the stonemason revealed how, when walking with his father, they had sighted the traveller, and his father had recognised him easily as a man who visited their village many times, but more than 30 years earlier. He was the same man, unchanged and identical in every way, though this was not all the stonemason had to tell. He had seen the traveller in this very tavern they now sat, eating with a number of locals and listening intently to all they had to say. Then, quite by accident, a bowl was broken, and while picking up the pieces, he cut his hand. When sighting him again later that same day, there was no sign of the cut, nor even a scar. This troubled them all indeed, but there was still one final tale to be told, and the carpenter now came to recount what distressed him so gravely. Only a few days before, the traveller asked if they might talk, and it was as they spoke he noticed the man holding a small, shiny box. He inquired after the unusual object, but all he would say was that he used it for remembering. After, he made his leave, but the carpenter followed. That was how he came to see the remembering box being used. It spoke with the traveller's own voice, and had he not heard it for himself, the carpenter would never have believed it. But then it spoke with another voice, and in that moment fear entered his heart, for the words uttered were his own. The traveller had captured his very being in that small box, and so frightened, ran for his life. There was much discussion about who or what this strange traveller was, but the stonemason concluded he could only be a demon sent to destroy all they held dear. Something needed to be done, and now all the friends fell silent, realising they had been called to tell more than just stories. This man, this beast, had to be stopped, he proclaimed. But how, came the question, for he could heal beyond the means of mortal men. But the stonemason was determined. When cut, the traveller had still bled, and even the beast fears fire. What remained unknown was when he would next return. Though as fortune would have it, he chose that very moment to enter the tavern. When the friends came to confront their quarry, he fought back with a fury. Still, they outnumbered him, and upon realising there was no escape, the fiend pulled out a small, orb-like object and made to use it. A single blow of the knife was all it took to stop him, and, as he fell, the orb rolled from his lifeless hand and came to rest at the feet of the fool. Before the friend could stop him, he picked it up and in an instant vanished. Though shocked at his loss, they later took solace that the traveller could claim no more victims. Upon his body, they found the remembering box, and the roaring fire was quick to eat up the infernal device. They took away his body and burnt it, after which no more was ever said on the matter. And soon the people of the village went back to their lives, content that evil had been banished. Looking back, it is understandable why the people of that lost village acted as they did. The remembering box, an object capable of capturing a spoken voice, must have been beyond all comprehension, akin only to magic. Today, the concept of such a device seems no more magic than the light bulb. But how then could such a thing be? It might be easy to dismiss if all this as a fanciful tale were it only an isolated case. But history is rife with such instances, and though the identity of the traveller remains unknown, it is clear he was sent to gather information and bring it back with him. One final question still deserves to be asked, however, and that is what happened to the fool. His friends believed him dead, or worse, transported to some hellish realm. They may not have been wrong. Still, he was never seen again. At least, not in their time. Thank you.